Supergirl is now in cinemas and I've just watched it. Let's discuss. Hello and welcome back to the channel, or if you're new then welcome on in. My name is Jay. In this video I'm going to be discussing Supergirl, the second film in the DCU after last year's Superman. I'm going to try and keep things spoiler free, but as usual anything in trailers or marketing, that's all fair game, so if you don't want to know anything, do that usual stuff, save the video to your watch later playlist, and then you can come back when you have seen the movie. Also, please do go ahead and hit that subscribe button along with the bell, and that way you are notified when I post a new video. Supergirl is directed by Craig Gillespie and written by Anna Nogueira, with the cast led by, of course, Millie Alcock as our eponymous Supergirl, also known as Kara Zor-El. The film sees Supergirl traveling across the galaxy in search of an antidote for her beloved dying dog Krypto, after he was poisoned by our antagonist for the film, Krem of the Yellow Hills, who is played by Matthias Schoenaerts, and he's the leader of the Brigands, a group of space pirates who also like to partake in human trafficking. Sadly though, in contrast to Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor in last year's Superman, Krem I found to be an incredibly boring, generic antagonist who really was just there because the film needed the necessary bad guy. On the other hand, Millie Alcock shines in the leading role as Supergirl. I think she's perfectly cast, playing a believable drunk with a reason for her decision behind her frequent drinking. There are layers to that character underneath the intoxicated girl that we see on the surface. Unfortunately, though, I think that whilst Millie Alcock does everything she can possibly do in the role with the material that she's given, some of Supergirl's choices, the film's choices, that is, I think actually disservice her character. For example, in a lot of the action scenes, we actually hide what Supergirl is capable of. One of them in particular looks like it's going to be a really difficult fight. It's Millie Alcock and all these foes around her, but the camera actually neglects to show us what Kara is doing and how she takes them on. It does that classic thing where we send another character off who's not going to be taking part in the fight, and the camera focuses on that person just kind of sitting there listening to everything going around her. We see some fighting going on in the background, but we can't exactly tell what's happening. And then Millie Alcock comes over to Supergirl, like, "Yep, all done." Like, I wanted to see what she can actually do, and that kind of contributes as well to some of the set pieces, well, the action sequences in Supergirl to be pretty forgettable. I think a lot of people going into this movie, because of the themes of going across the galaxy, the intergalactic vibe of it, they're comparing it to, well, Guardians of the Galaxy. I was going to say, you've also got the reason, of course, James Gunn, in charge of this new DCU. So I guess Guardians of the Galaxy is a fair comparison. I don't want to do that too much, but I will say that the action scenes in this movie were nowhere near as iconic or memorable. The CGI was also pretty noticeable in that third act, where you've, of course, got that expected final battle sequence. The green screen was pretty obvious, and there was points where characters were just standing there looking out to the action that was unfolding, and it was clear that none of that was actually happening. It was just a character being told, or an actor being told, right, look over this way. This is where the action's going to happen. It was just a green screen. So unfortunately, that was a bit noticeable for me at least. What was a lot more memorable and in a very good way was the flashbacks we got to Krypton. We actually got to see how Kara left that planet and she travelled to Earth. I thought that was a standout of the movie, and that was probably the strongest part of the movie as well. I kind of wish we spent a lot more time on that. I did also think that the opening montage did a great job of showing how much Kara cares about her dog and the close bond that they have. And as someone who's very much a dog person, I've got one of my own, this contributed to a lot of sympathy that I gained for Kara when her pet was later taken from her, or not taken from her, but was obviously poisoned, which again is in the trailer, so don't come at me for spoilers. I said that's fair game. I was also a big fan of the interconnectivity that we have going on. I mentioned at the top of the review that this is the second film in the DCU after Superman, and the franchise is not wasting any time at providing some connections between these two films. We obviously had the introduction of Millie Alcock as Supergirl at the end of last year's Superman, and now we've got Superman in this film appearing, a lot, of course, played by David Cornsweet as Clark Kent slash Kal-El slash Superman. Three names there, but yeah, he's here as well, and his inclusion is a welcome one. I think David Cornsweet's used just enough. He doesn't come in and take over Supergirl's story, but the film correctly does not ignore the fact that the two of these people are in this universe and they're family. Their relationship is touched upon, it's explored a little bit, but I think given the ending of the film, it's likely to be explored a lot more in future installments. I've not mentioned Eve Ridley yet. She plays Ruthie, a girl who experiences her own personal tragedy after a run-in with Krem, and resultantly joins Supergirl on her journey because they're both looking to find the same person. Full disclosure, I found this character to be pretty annoying on one note, though in fairness, Supergirl herself actually acknowledges this and it becomes a bit of a running gag, but it does not make Ruthie's repetitive declaration for revenge any less annoying. Jason Momoa also stars as Lobo, a bounty hunter. I imagine a lot of people, particularly DC fans and those who are all up in the lore and past versions of universes and comics, they're probably going to praise Jason Momoa. Though as someone who's unfamiliar with the character he plays, Lobo, I was just left a bit like, who is this? His inclusion seemed a little bit disjointed, only really there because they wanted to have Jason Momoa actually do something. Again, I'm just not familiar with that character. I'm very, very familiar with the MCU. I've not really explored previous DC films. I've only just started watching some of the DC expanded universe. I started that quite recently, but I've not seen any previous iterations of this of DC characters. So I was just a bit left like, why is Lobo here in the Supergirl story, and what is his purpose? Just didn't really stand out for me, unfortunately. Overall, I've got to say, and I say it with regret, that I'm pretty underwhelmed with Supergirl. We're in the early days of the DCU, so setup is required for all your characters, and you want to build this into an overall franchise, but that doesn't mean you can't have a solid movie, which the early days of the MCU proved. I know a lot of people are going to come at me for comparing the MCU to the DCU, but hey, that's what I'm doing. They're both um, comic book superhero adaptations, so it feels like an appropriate comparison. There are problems in Supergirl, but to be clear, none of them are Millie Alcock's. She was absolutely fantastic. Overall, I'm going to give Supergirl a rating of 2.5 stars, which for comparison is exactly the same rating that I gave to The Mandalorian and Grogu, which came out last month, I believe it was. I think if I had to watch one of those two films again, see, in my notes I've written down I should watch Supergirl again, but now I'm like, I'd probably watch The Mandalorian and Grogu over this film. I don't know. I don't have any plans to watch either of them again, but I just wanted to give a comparison for where I rate this film along with another one that I've seen that I thought was of similar value that I've seen this year. That is everything for this video. Again, please do hit that subscribe button. Make sure you give the video a like as well. And if you've seen Supergirl, then share a comment. I'm also on TikTok. It's J like the letter. I've been posting on there quite a lot recently. I do a lot of what I'm doing here on YouTube, but I give more condensed reviews as well. So check me out there. Okay, that really is everything, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.